The man suspected in the killing of Sade Robinson is set to appear again in court after officials say he went on a date with the Wisconsin teen the day before her remains were found. Maxwell Anderson, 33, was arrested on April 4 at a traffic stop and charged with the death of Robinson, 19, after police received a report of a severed leg located near a golf course in Milwaukee County, Wisconsin. The leg was discovered April 2, the day after Anderson met with Robinson. Robinson was reported missing on April 2. When the teenager, who had a date with Anderson the night before at a Milwaukee seafood restaurant he used to work at, didn't show up for her shift at a pizza restaurant, her co-workers suspected something was wrong. Now, the man she went on a date with is charged with the following: first-degree intentional homicide, mutilating a corpse, arson of property other than a building. The man suspected in the killing of Sade Robinson is set to appear again in court after officials say he went on a date with the Wisconsin teen the day before her remains were found. Maxwell Anderson, 33, was arrested on April 4 at a traffic stop and charged with the death of Robinson, 19, after police received a report of a severed leg located near a golf course in Milwaukee County, Wisconsin. The leg was discovered April 2, the day after Anderson met with Robinson. Robinson was reported missing on April 2. When the teenager, who had a date with Anderson the night before at a Milwaukee seafood restaurant he used to work at, didn't show up for her shift at a pizza restaurant, her co-workers suspected something was wrong. Now, the man she went on a date with is charged with the following: first-degree intentional homicide, mutilating a corpse, arson of property other than a building. Anderson's court date. Anderson is scheduled to return to court for his preliminary hearing on the 22nd of April at 1:30 p.m. at the Milwaukee County Courthouse Criminal Justice Facility, where Assistant District Attorney Ian Van Scurzan will be expected to provide probable cause that Anderson committed a felony. Anderson's defense attorney, Anthony Cotton, will be able to cross-examine witnesses the state provides. Milwaukee County Circuit Court Judge Jean Kess will decide if there's probable cause. If she believes there is, then Anderson will stand trial. Then the case will move to an arraignment hearing where Anderson would plead guilty or innocent. How did prosecutors build a case against Anderson? The prosecution used surveillance footage, witness statements and phone tracking records to build a case against Anderson. Officials with the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office and Milwaukee Police Department said last week that the investigation and search for more body parts is ongoing. A week after his arrest, Anderson was charged with first-degree intentional homicide, which carries a life sentence, mutilating a corpse and arson. Who is Sade Robinson? In May, Robinson would have turned 20 and graduated from Milwaukee Area Technical College with an associate degree in criminal justice, her mother Sheena Scarborough told the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, part of the USA Today network. Her mother said Robinson dreamed of joining the U.S. Air Force and that she loved to take solo trips. This year she went to Jamaica, but traveled to New Orleans, Atlanta and other places as well. But for the time being, she was a favorite among co-workers and customers at the local pizza place she worked at, said her manager. Her manager, Justin Romano, told local media outlet 6ABC she was very outgoing, she would talk to everybody here. She was always there to lighten the mood. A timeline of the day Sade Robinson disappeared. Robinson met with Anderson the evening of April 1 for a date at Anderson's former job. From a complaint obtained by the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, the following events occurred. 4:15 p.m., Robinson sends text messages to a phone number later determined to belong to Anderson. The two arranged to meet at Twisted Fisherman restaurant for dinner. Anderson mentions he also needs to pick up a W-2 form there since he used to work there. 5:20 p.m., Robinson meets Anderson at the restaurant and the two have food and drinks at the bar. Anderson arrived first and told a bartender he was there for a first date. Staff later repeat this to investigators and confirm that Anderson used to work there. 6:30 p.m., the two leave the restaurant and arrive in Robinson's car. While there, Robinson sends a Snapchat message to a friend. The two leave the bar at 9:06 p.m. 9:24 p.m., Robinson's phone is located in the area of Anderson's home. Surveillance video shows two human figures arriving at the house in the night. The next case we will feature is this. Police in Connecticut have opened an investigation into the death of a black woman who was found dead last month in her Bridgeport apartment after a date with a man she had met on a dating app. The woman, Lauren Smith Fields, 23, was found after a man she had met on Bumble called 911 on the 12th of December to report that he had woken up to find her unresponsive with a nosebleed. An attorney for Smith Fields' family, Darnell Crosland, filed a notice of claim Friday notifying the city of his intent to sue over what he described as the police department's racially insensitive handling of the case. In his notice of claim, Crossland said Bridgeport police failed to investigate and did not recover critical evidence from the apartment, including a blood-stained bed sheet, a pill and a used condom, until 2 weeks after Smith Fields' death, at the urging of her family. Bridgeport police have not responded to multiple requests for comment about these claims. The family also said that police told them the man she met online, who is 37 and white, was not a person of interest but did not explain why, and that the initial detective assigned to the case told them to stop calling to inquire about the status of the investigation. Her family said police never notified them of her death and that they learned about it from her landlord. Mayor Joseph Ganim said Monday that sensitivity and care is of utmost importance when working with the family of a victim, and the handling of the case has been referred to the police department's Office of Internal Affairs for an investigation. He said he would work with the police chief to make changes to department practices regarding notifying family members of a death. The Office of the Chief Medical Examiner said Monday that Smith Fields' death was accidental, resulting from acute intoxication due to the combined effects of fentanyl, promethazine, hydroxyzine and alcohol. When black women hold a greater number of political positions, they are more likely to be killed by white men and police. Thus, black women's victimization reflects their vulnerabilities within, and perceived threats to, both gender and racial hierarchies. Similarly, a study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences in 2019 found that black men and women are killed by police at higher rates than their white counterparts. Specifically, black men are about 2.5 times more likely to be killed by police over the course of their lifetime than white men, while black women are about 1.4 times more likely to be killed by police than white women. A recent report in the Lancet Medical Journal explores the racial inequities in homicide rates using data collected by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's National Vital Statistics System to analyze homicide rates of black women between the ages of 25 and 44 in 30 states across the country. For the study, researchers classified homicides as death by shooting, piercing, cutting, and other forms of violence. Between 1999 and 2020, the study found that black women were 6 times more likely to be killed than their white counterparts in that same age range. To find that black women were murdered at a rate of 6 times that of white women was pretty shocking, said Bernadine Waller, one of the lead authors of the study. Waller is also a National Institute of Mental Health postdoctoral research fellow in the psychiatry department at Columbia University Irving Medical Center. As a scholar whose research has focused on intimate partner violence, she knew that there was a disparity in homicide rates. Still, she wanted to participate in the study because no one had done research of this magnitude.
Violence against black women is often underreported. Black feminist scholar Kimball Crenshaw pointed this out in an article in The Guardian and often through the #Say Her Name movement. Many news headlines focus on the fact that black men and boys, who are killed by homicides at higher rates than any other group, face a deeply troubling epidemic, but it's rare for news outlets to discuss how black women and girls are also being killed at an increasing rate and how their killings are a silent epidemic. Particularly in the wake of the racial unrest that was ignited by protests across the country in 2020, data revealed that there was a disparity between the killings of black women and their white counterparts. As the Lancet report notes, the homicide rates of black women have increased during the COVID-19 pandemic. Particularly during the earlier months of the pandemic, it was black women who were disproportionately labeled essential workers.
Particularly in the wake of the 2020 killing of George Floyd, more attention has been paid to structural racism in the Midwest in particular, where economic inequality, disproportionate incarceration, and segregation plagued Black Americans. The Lancet report now finds that in Midwestern states like Wisconsin, Missouri, and Oklahoma, over 15 more Black women than white women were killed for every 100,000 women ages 25 to 44 between 2019 and 2020. In Wisconsin, Black women were 20 times more likely to be killed than their white counterparts. The scholars point out that this is a disturbing increase from the period between 1999 and 2003, when the homicide rate of Black women was 6 times the rate of white women, which was still extremely high. In the report, the researchers point out that structural racism might provide insight as to why Black women, regardless of their ethnicity, face disproportionately high rates of homicide. They note that the greatest inequities are in areas of the country where concentrated disadvantage is pronounced. The study also notes that educational attainment, employment, poverty, residential segregation, and home ownership are well-known indicators influencing disproportionately high rates of homicide in areas where Black women largely reside. Given these findings, the authors of the report point to an urgent need to address homicide inequities between Black and white women in the United States. They believe that policymakers must pass federal legislation that reduces access to guns. They also call on policymakers to pass legislation to address structural barriers. Policymakers must address long-standing structural factors that underpin elevated gun violence, the authors write, by implementing sustainable wealth-building opportunities, developing disaggregated, mixed-income and affordable housing, and increasing green spaces in communities where Black women largely reside.